Have you ever wondered what makes some couples over 70 still hold hands like newlyweds, their eyes sparkling with a love that feels fresh, even after decades together? Is it luck, or is there a secret to keeping that fire alive? In this video, we're diving into the wisdom of a 78-year-old woman named Eleanor, who's been married for 54 years and still shares a closeness with her husband that most people can only dream of. Only 5% of people over 70 can do what she does, maintain a love that's deep, passionate, and emotionally rich. Stay with us, because what you're about to learn will change how you see love, intimacy, and connection forever. You'll discover the rare habits that keep relationships thriving, the mistakes that quietly push partners apart, and the simple actions you can take today to bring warmth back into your relationship, no matter how long you've been together. Partner, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I encourage you to click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay updated on all our latest content. Your support means the world, so if you find value in this video, please give it a thumbs up to help spread our message. I'm eager to hear your thoughts on today's topic. If you enjoy the content, please comment number 1 below. If it doesn't resonate with you, leave a 0. Your feedback is crucial as it helps me create better videos that align with your interests. Now, let's get started. Picture this, a cozy living room in a small town in Ohio. Eleanor, with her silver hair and warm smile, sits on a worn leather couch, a cup of chamomile tea in her hands. Her husband, George, is in the kitchen, humming an old Sinatra tune as he washes dishes. They've been married since 1969, through raising 3 kids, surviving job losses, and navigating health scares. Yet, when Eleanor talks about George, her eyes light up like she's 24 again. "He still makes my heart skip," she says, her voice soft but steady. It's not about the big things, it's the little ways we keep choosing each other every day. Eleanor's story isn't just heartwarming, it's rare. Most couples lose that spark over time, but Eleanor and George are part of the 5% who've mastered something extraordinary, a love that grows deeper with age. What's their secret? It's not about grand gestures or endless passion. It's about emotional connection, the kind that makes you feel seen, safe, and cherished. Intimacy, Eleanor says, isn't just physical. It's about knowing someone's heart and letting them know yours. Over the years, she's learned 17 rare habits that only a few couples practice, habits that keep love alive when life gets hard. Today, we'll share 9 of them, straight from Eleanor's wisdom, with stories and tips you can use in your own life. Let's start with the first rare habit, listening without fixing. Eleanor laughs as she recalls how George used to jump in with solutions whenever she shared a worry. I'd tell him about a rough day, and he'd start planning how to fix it, like it was a leaky faucet, she says. But over time, George learned something powerful. Sometimes, Eleanor just needed him to listen. When he started really hearing me, without trying to solve everything, I felt so understood. It made me want to be closer to him. Most people over 70, honestly, most people period, struggle to listen without interrupting or offering advice. But Eleanor says this habit is like oxygen for a relationship. When your partner feels truly heard, it builds a bridge to their heart. Here's how you can do it. Next time your partner shares something, a frustration, a memory, or even a small joy, resist the urge to respond right away. Just nod, look them in the eyes, and let them finish. Try saying, "I hear you, and I'm here." Eleanor swears this simple act can make your partner feel safer with you than any grand gesture. For example, last month, Eleanor was upset about a friend's illness. George didn't offer advice or change the subject. He held her hand and said, "That sounds really heavy. Want to tell me more?" That moment, Eleanor says, made her feel so connected that they ended up cuddling on the couch, something they hadn't done in weeks. The second habit is touching with no agenda. In our 50s, 60s, and beyond, physical intimacy changes, bodies age, energy shifts. But Eleanor says the real magic isn't in the bedroom, it's in the small, everyday touches that say, "I see you." George will brush my shoulder when he walks by or kiss my forehead while I'm reading, she says. It's not about leading to something else, it's about saying, I love you, right now. Only 5% of couples over 70 keep this kind of non-demanding touch alive, but it's a game changer. It tells your partner they're desired for who they are, not just what they can give. Try this, today, touch your partner in a way that expects nothing in return. Rest your hand on their arm while you're watching TV, or give them a quick hug when you pass in the hallway. Eleanor says these moments build a bank account of affection that makes deeper intimacy feel natural later. She remembers a time when she was feeling low after a family argument. George didn't push for conversation or affection, he just sat close, his knee touching hers. That quiet connection made her feel so loved that she reached for his hand first. The third habit is owning your mistakes. Eleanor admits she used to hold grudges. If George forgot something important, like our anniversary, I'd freeze him out for days, she says. But in her 60s, she realized something: holding on to anger only built walls between us. Now, when one of them messes up, they own it quickly. George once forgot to call when he was running late, leaving Eleanor worried. Instead of deflecting, he said, I messed up, honey. I'll make sure it doesn't happen again. That honesty melted her frustration and brought them closer. Here's a tip: when you're wrong, say so. A simple, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you, can stop a small mistake from becoming a big rift. Eleanor says this habit is rare because pride gets in the way, but the 5% who practice it have stronger, more trusting relationships. Last year, Eleanor snapped at George over a minor misunderstanding. Before the tension could grow, she apologized, I was out of line, and I don't want to push you away. George's smile was instant, and they ended up laughing about it over dinner. The fourth habit is celebrating the small wins. Life after 70 isn't always full of big moments, but Eleanor says joy hides in the everyday. George will thank me for making his coffee just right, like it's a gift, she says. And I'll tell him how much I love his silly jokes, even after 50 years. Most couples stop noticing these things, but Eleanor and George make a point to celebrate them. It's not about flattery, it's about saying, I'm grateful for you. Try this, today, thank your partner for something small they do, like folding the laundry or telling a story you love. Be specific, instead of thanks for dinner, say, I love how you always make the table feel so warm. Eleanor says this habit keeps love vibrant because it reminds you both why you fell in love. She recalls a day when George left a note saying, your smile today made my whole morning. That tiny gesture led to a long, heartfelt talk that night, rekindling their closeness. The fifth habit is staying curious about each other. After decades together, it's easy to think you know everything about your partner. But Eleanor says that's a trap. George still surprises me, she says. Last year, he told me he's always wanted to learn to paint. I had no idea. By asking questions and staying open, they keep their relationship fresh. Only 5% of couples over 70 actively seek to learn about each other, but it's what keeps love from stagnating. Here's how to do it: ask your partner something new, like, what's a dream you've never told me about, or what's been on your mind lately? Listen like it's the first time you're hearing them. Eleanor says this habit builds emotional intimacy, which fuels physical closeness. When George shared his painting dream, Eleanor signed them up for a local art class. They laughed through their terrible sketches, but the shared adventure brought them closer than ever. The sixth habit is forgiving without keeping score. Eleanor admits she used to tally George's mistakes in her head. I'd think, he forgot this, he did that, like I was building a case, she says. But she learned that scorekeeping poisons love. Now, when one of them falters, they forgive and let it go. It's not about who's right, Eleanor says. It's about who we are together. This habit is rare, most people cling to old hurts, but it's what keeps Eleanor and George's love resilient. Try this: think of a small grudge you're holding. Maybe your partner forgot something or said the wrong thing. Decide to let it go, and tell them, I just want us to be close, not caught up in the past. Eleanor says this opens the door to trust. When George once overlooked Eleanor's birthday, she was hurt but chose to forgive. I told him, let's make tomorrow special instead. And we did. That choice turned a painful moment into a beautiful memory. The seventh habit is creating rituals together. Eleanor and George have small traditions that anchor their love. Every Sunday, they take a walk in their neighborhood, holding hands and talking about their week. It's our time, Eleanor says. No matter what's going on, we show up for it. These rituals aren't fancy, but they're sacred. Only 5% of couples over 70 maintain consistent rituals, but they're what make love feel steady and safe. Here's a tip: start a simple ritual with your partner. Maybe it's coffee together every morning or a weekly movie night. Make it yours, and stick to it. Eleanor says rituals build a rhythm of connection. When George was recovering from surgery, they couldn't walk, so they started reading a book aloud together. That new ritual kept their bond strong through a tough time. The eighth habit is speaking with kindness, always. Eleanor says words are like seeds, they grow into love or resentment. Early on, I could be sharp with George when I was stressed, she admits. But I saw how it hurt him. Now, even in disagreements, they choose kind words. When George left dishes piled up, Eleanor didn't snap. She said, I know you're tired, but could you help me with the dishes? That gentleness kept the moment light and loving. Try this: next time you're frustrated, pause and choose a kind way to say what's on your mind. Instead of "you never help," try, "I'd love it if we could tackle this together." Eleanor says kind words create a home where love thrives. Once, when Eleanor was overwhelmed, George said, I see how hard you're working. Let's do this together. His tone made her feel supported, not criticized, and it deepened their bond. The ninth habit is choosing to see the good. After 54 years, Eleanor could focus on George's quirks, like his loud snoring or habit of misplacing keys. But she chooses to see his heart. He's the man who holds my hand through every storm, she says. That's what matters. This habit is rare because it's human nature to nitpick, but the 5% who focus on the good keep their love alive. Here's how to start. Today, write down 3 things you love about your partner's character: their loyalty, their laugh, their kindness. Share one with them. Eleanor does this often, telling George, I love how you make everyone feel welcome. These words remind them both of their love's foundation. Once, when Eleanor was frustrated about George's forgetfulness, she shifted her focus to his thoughtfulness instead. That night, she thanked him for always checking on her, and they ended up talking for hours, rediscovering their closeness. The 10th habit is making time to laugh together. Eleanor says laughter is like medicine for a relationship. George and I can be in the middle of a tough day, but if he makes me giggle, everything feels lighter, she says. They'll share a silly memory or poke fun at their own quirks, like how Eleanor always burns the toast. Only 5% of couples over 70 prioritize laughter, but it's what keeps their bond playful. When you laugh together, Eleanor says, you remember you're on the same team. Last winter, when they were snowed in, George started a mock dance-off in their living room. They were terrible, but their laughter filled the house, and that night, they felt closer than ever. Here's how you can do it: find one thing to laugh about with your partner today. Tell a funny story, watch a comedy, or tease each other gently about something silly. Eleanor says laughter lowers walls and opens hearts. Once, when Eleanor was stressed about a family issue, George pulled out an old photo of them in ridiculous 70s outfits. They laughed until their sides hurt, and that shared joy led to a long, warm hug. The 11th habit is showing gratitude daily. Eleanor says it's easy to take your partner for granted after years together, but gratitude keeps love fresh. Every day, I thank George for something, even if it's just him being him, she says. George does the same, often saying, I'm so lucky to have you. This habit is rare. Most people assume their partner knows they're appreciated, but it's what makes Eleanor and George feel valued. Gratitude isn't just words, Eleanor says. It's a way of seeing your partner as a gift. Try this today. Tell your partner one thing you're grateful for about them. Be specific. I'm so thankful for how you always know when I need a quiet moment. Eleanor says these words build a foundation of love. When George was feeling down after retiring, Eleanor thanked him for all the years he worked to support their family. That small gesture lifted his spirits and reminded them of their shared journey, sparking a deep conversation that night. The 12th habit is being vulnerable together. Eleanor says true intimacy comes from sharing your fears, hopes, and imperfections. I used to hide my worries from George, thinking I had to be strong, she says. But when I let him see my heart, we grew closer. Last year, Eleanor admitted she was scared about aging. George didn't brush it off, he shared his own fears. That honesty created a bond deeper than any physical closeness. Only 5% of couples over 70 stay open like this, but it's what keeps love alive. Here's a tip: share something real with your partner today, even if it feels risky. Maybe it's a worry or a dream. Say, I want to tell you something I've been thinking about. Eleanor says vulnerability invites trust. When George confessed he felt useless after retiring, Eleanor held his hand and shared her own insecurities. They cried, then laughed, and felt more connected than they had in years. The 13th habit is respecting each other's space. Eleanor and George love being together, but they've learned that time apart makes their time together richer. George has his woodworking, and I have my book club, Eleanor says. We come back to each other with new stories. This balance is rare. Many couples cling or drift, but it keeps their relationship dynamic. Giving each other space isn't distance, Eleanor says. It's trust. Try this: encourage your partner to do something they love, even if it's solo. Say, I love that you're passionate about this, tell me about it later. Eleanor says this respect fuels closeness. When George spent a weekend at a fishing cabin, Eleanor didn't resent it, she used the time to paint. When he returned, they shared their adventures, and the spark between them was electric. The 14th habit is keeping promises, no matter how small. Eleanor says trust is built in the little things. If George says he'll call the plumber, he does it, she says. It's not about the plumber, it's about knowing I can count on him. This habit is rare because life gets busy, and small promises slip. But for Eleanor and George, keeping their word is sacred. It creates a safety net for their love. Here's how to start: make one small promise to your partner today, like doing a chore or planning a date, and follow through. Eleanor says these actions say, you matter. Once, George promised to fix a squeaky door Eleanor hated. He did it that day, and she felt so cared for that she surprised him with his favorite dessert. That small exchange deepened their connection. The 15th habit is reminiscing together. Eleanor and George love revisiting their shared history. We'll pull out old photos or talk about our first date, she says. It reminds us who we are. This habit is rare. Many couples focus on the present or future, but it strengthens emotional bonds. Memories are like glue, Eleanor says. They hold you together when life pulls you apart. One evening, they found a letter George wrote Eleanor in 1970. Reading it aloud brought tears and laughter, and they ended up dancing in their kitchen. Try this: share a memory with your partner today. Say, remember that time we, and let the story unfold. Eleanor says these moments reignite love. When Eleanor was recovering from surgery, George reminded her of their honeymoon misadventures. They laughed so hard it lifted her spirits, and they felt closer despite the hospital bed between them. The 16th habit is choosing love over being right. Eleanor says arguments used to be about winning. I dig in, determined to prove my point, she says. But I learned that being right doesn't keep you warm at night. Now, when they disagree, they focus on understanding, not victory. This habit is rare, pride is stubborn, but it's what keeps their love peaceful. Love isn't a courtroom, Eleanor says. It's a home. Here's a tip: next time you're in a disagreement, pause and say, I want to understand you better. Let go of winning. Eleanor says this shifts fights into conversations. When they argued over holiday plans, George said, let's find what makes us both happy. That compromise led to a joyful holiday and a stronger bond. The 17th habit is never stopping the pursuit. Eleanor says the biggest mistake couples make is thinking love is a destination. You don't arrive at love, she says. You keep choosing it. George still woos her with small gestures, a note in her purse, a compliment out of nowhere. He makes me feel like I'm still his sweetheart, she says. Only 5% of couples over 70 keep pursuing each other, but it's what makes Eleanor and George's love timeless. Try this: do one thing today to woo your partner. Leave a note, plan a surprise, or say, you're still the one I'd choose. Eleanor says these gestures keep love alive. Last week, George left a flower from their garden on Eleanor's pillow. That tiny act led to a night of talking and holding each other, proving love doesn't age. Eleanor's 17 habits aren't complicated, but they're rare because they require intention. Most couples let life's busyness or hurts pile up, but Eleanor and George show us that love can thrive at any age. It's not about being perfect, it's about showing up, day after day, with a heart that says, I choose you. These habits, listening, touching, forgiving, laughing, and more, build a love that's not just lasting but alive, warm, and deeply intimate. Because intimacy isn't just physical, it's the feeling of being truly known and still adored. Think about your own relationship. Maybe you felt distant lately, or maybe you're craving that spark you used to have. Eleanor's wisdom reminds us it's never too late to start. You don't need to overhaul your life, just pick one habit and try it today. Maybe it's thanking your partner for something small or holding their hand with no agenda. These tiny acts are like seeds, and with time, they grow into a love that feels effortless and true. I want to leave you with a final thought: the couples who stay in love aren't the ones with the fewest problems or the most passion. They're the ones who make their partner feel seen, safe, and cherished every single day. That's what Eleanor and George have done for 54 years, and it's what you can do, too. So here's my challenge: pick one of these 17 habits and try it this week. Maybe it's listening without fixing or sharing a laugh. Then come back and tell me how it went. Drop a comment below: what's one thing you're going to do to make your partner feel loved today? I read every comment, and I can't wait to hear your stories. If this video touched your heart or gave you a new perspective, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs to hear this. And if you haven't already, click the subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. We're building a community here, one that believes love can grow stronger with age. Thank you for being here, for listening to Eleanor's story, and for choosing to make your relationship a little brighter today. I'll see you in the next one.